morning there. You're watching QTV this morning, and I am Jenna Basonko, and I hope that you had an amazing weekend and quite interesting weekend that we saw. You know, some of you obviously were at Westfield and different locations protesting for the release of young people who were arrested when it comes to a protest that was staged on the looted assets of former President Yahya Jammeh. And a lot to be discussed on the program. And good morning, Ibrahim Abalde. And on the newspaper review today, we're joined by QTV journalist Aliou Cisse. Thank you so much for joining us, gentlemen. How was your weekend?
It's good to be back here, Geneva. I mean, the weekend was okay. I was at the trade fair.
Oh, nice.
You know, as you know, QCell was conducting a promotion, giving out free QPower scratch cards to you know, people who answer questions regarding QCell services. So I was there to cheer that event.
Nice.
I was there asking questions.
That must have been fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I was there giving out. Of course.
Weekend,
you know, yes, I was out. I was at the trade fair. But surprisingly, the trade fair during weekends, it's the place to be, man.
It's packed.
You know, very packed. A lot of entertainment, a lot of enjoyment. So I had a good time.
You did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Aliou, how was your weekend?
My weekend was good, Geneva. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be back on the This Morning program. And like you said, it's been a quite exciting weekend for most of us who have been following, like you said, the protests and all what's been happening, you know, following what is happening online and all those things. And also, you know, trying to attend, I mean, some friends naming ceremonies, some of our colleagues, of course, Umar Ba of Standard and Farmer of Fofana. So it's been a quite busy weekend, but yeah, we're here.
Congratulations. He sent me an invite.
You didn't go?
No, unfortunately, I was
What happened again?
I was on track.
What happened again?
Unfortunately, Farmara, if you are watching, congratulations, Farmara. Farmara is our Farmara.
Farmara, don't accept.
Farmara is our
Don't
Farmara.
accept it.
So I was on track.
Why? Where?
I was a resource person for a training in North Bank, Jerekam, Sitolinku, for young global platform volunteers. I was teaching them how to use TikTok. And
did you also get pro bono or what?
No, it was, well,
interesting. What were you teaching them on TikTok?
So I was teaching them.
Well,
obviously, it wasn't pro bono because normally there's facilitation fee for any facilitator.
Okay.
So I was teaching them.
Exactly.
I was teaching them how to use TikTok. For example, some of them have never even had a TikTok account. And these are communication officers for the global platform initiative. Exactly. Yes.
So no,
I'm not West Coast, different regions like So I help them install TikTok. But I want to learn how to edit videos on TikTok, how to overlay, how to caption and all of that. And also I took them through child and gender sensitive reporting. That, you know, when you're reporting on child, some of the things that you have to look for. And also when you're reporting on women. And I gave them cases that has happened in the Gambia that have been reported wrongly by journalists.
That's a huge package, huh?
It was an impact.
I hope you were also quick to tell them to use TikTok responsibly.
I told them to use TikTok as a person who's a victim. As a person who's a victim of cyberbullying, I would always,
How did you become a victim of cyberbullying?
All I know.
We were all here.
So now, as a victim, I actually, when I was giving my presentation, I told them to always remember that where their right starts, another person's responsibility exists. So I told them to use TikTok properly because cyberbullying is not even what people think. Cyberbullying can be the most little remarks that you can give somebody online, which they understood. So yeah, cyberbullying is not what you think, Aliou. It's beyond the big thing. Cyberbullying can be anything. Need mu post darasa nga wako na ya nyaw. It's cyberbullying because yo o nga ne ko sa shape bi nu mel
or sa baken
bi or sa li. It's all because fufu you are affecting the emotional well-being of that individual.
But other things that are complimenting.
Wow.
Geneva ninga solo yangi nice and all.
Yangi nice ak yangi
social
nyaw
media.
The moment nga bring negativity onto the skin of another person,
man nak luma fok moy, I mean, for you to be able to maintain your that inner peace, moy nga avoid certain things on social media as well.
Geneva said her mental health.
For example, man, it's very rare. Man is very rare. I guess my post on Facebook, like post my picture on Facebook, because sometimes so post it, dinga am negative comments. It's better.
Why balde lolu right tut fi ñun ñep ñu nekk ci internet bi ay magum jema lañ te internet bi ken momu ko kum ne post lu ko saf waaye li nga wax ne yow doo post parce que there's a tendency ne di nga receive negative comments loolu warul ñun ñëpp dañ war a régler
da nga war a study environment boo nekka xam nga fii nit ñi nuñ dee xalaate ak ñeneen dëkk yi nu ñoo xalaate can be totally different.
I agree.
So you need to know your environment. You need to know.
Why cyberbullying nekkul Gambia rek de. It happens globally.
Everywhere.
Aside from knowing your environment, is also being responsible. How you use social media.
The type of content.
You post. Exactly. That also matters. I mean, for example, you can't just be posting about everything on social media. Come on, it doesn't make sense.
That they lose credibility.
Exactly, they lose credibility. So whatever you are posting should be low harm. Look at jarla. I'm not that impact on all those things. Understand? But not everything that you have to put on social media.
Example, Mangi Setan last week a TikTok video. I was going through it. I don't know what was that young lady doing. Dafa ñëw si yaayam ku ko jur mu def caméra bi ni mu ne yaayam mu ne ko ne yow depuis suma papa bu mu gaañoo yow kañ nga géja understand nga kañ nga géja am yooyu noonu so people were insulting her on social media understand nga so those are dama la woon the type of content boo xam ne content boobu man sa dafa snatch suma piece
to be honest with you
man sa content boobu
honestly
content boobu dafa snatch suma piece that is wrong.
I don't know. Okay, maybe because I mean they want to use it content.
I don't understand.
To make money.
Loolu is staged.
Some of this
content is cooked up.
Loolu daf ko bëgga pour lifin dafa bëggoon pour am hype waaye nit ñi dañ ko doon saaga kooku ëllëg mun naa génn mu ne nit ñi dañ ko bully. Understand nga?
No, bullying bi dang ko de qualify.
It's not irrelevant.
Bullying bi tam dang ko le wara mëna qualify. Am na yenay tamit
you cannot holal façon content bobu rek.
Yeah, I didn't certain content small.
Why anyway, freedom of expression tam mo am de. Nit ki dal li la saf ak li nga sentir.
No.
Luwa may na la pour nga wax ko fekk saaguloo kenn xamuloo kenn.
Waaye gis nga am na content yoo xam ne tam bu nekkee ne def nga ko ku ko nekk di seetaan sa sometimes am na lum dee feel si biiram then you are also bullying that individual indirectly.
Waaw dafa depend because am na yenn content yoo xam ne TikTok dañ ko dee wàcce.
Waaw man
if you are emotionally affecting other people.
I don't like it.
wala TikTok dañ ko dee label as sensitive content.
Waaw
yow sa right la pour nga click ko nga xool ko bu ko click.
bu nekkee Facebook la ñu ne la are you interested.
Personally I'm not on TikTok. Xaw ma naka la ñuy gisee app bi sax. No I'm not.
léegi dama ko
waaye TikTok da nga fa dee mën a dugg di xool ay mbir.
No aw ma ko sax aw ma account bi sax aw ma app bi sax.
Why?
I don't know. I don't feel I shouldn't be there. I don't know.
It's not bad, Aliu.
Yeah.
TikTok is actually.
How many can you use this?
But I think you should just open it, even if you don't post. Why it's good as a journalist. I hold some reports.
Sometimes man can mind see Facebook, LinkedIn, so that's why I follow what is happening.
Okay, but TikTok is not bad.
Exactly.
So yeah, gentlemen, let's get into it. We've all seen what happened over the weekend. You know, it actually started 2 days before we got into the weekend when, we saw the gala protesters were arrested and all of that. And then later, when they were arrested, we saw young people also take over the streets across the country to demand for their release. And a lot of consultations happened. We saw the National Youth Council, we saw the presidential advisor. We just... People from different spheres of life were out on the streets.
So you were following all this things from Nyomi?
I was following all these things from North
So
Bank.
there's internet now in Nyomi?
Yes, there's internet. There has always been internet in North Bank. So I was following whilst I was on track, because I wasn't here when all this thing was happening. I was following closely to check what was happening, just so that I'm on top of issues. But Aliu, as a citizen of the country, how do you overall analyze the situation? Because what was demanded was that the list should be out. Part of the list is out. And when the list came out, we've seen, the prices of the sale of certain items, which a lot of Gambians frown at, and then the protests on the other hand. What does the whole scenario tell you as a Gambian?
To start with, it shows that, we are in a democratic country where people understand their rights.
Yeah.
And then they came out to demonstrate that they were asking for something from the government.
Yeah.
And also the government responded, not as we would have expected, but they responded when they knew things were getting out of hand.
Right.
For so long, people have been asking for this list to be released.
Yes.
And even at the National Assembly, the Minister of Justice, said no, they couldn't, share this list because, it will mean, infringing on the rights of these buyers.
The buyers, okay.
That never happened until when these young people went out to ask for a permit to hold a peaceful protest, to submit a petition to the Attorney General, which wasn't granted with no reasons given at the time. And as they gathered at the arch, the Memorial Arch, and they were arrested, and some of them, were taken to different locations.
Right.
And at some point, that also angered people, and they went out to,
did.
To express their frustration.
Yeah.
But what we saw was that, after the lockdown, Westfield,
saying no vehicles should pass.
Exactly, and I think they begin to make sense of what was happening.
Yeah.
That if we don't act and do something,
this can get out of hand.
This thing is going to escalate
and we've
further.
seen it in other countries.
Exactly, we've seen it in this country. Exactly. So, but it was good. The boys were released at the end of the day because what they asked for was for them to disperse, that they were in the process of releasing them. And then the response was, they must be here first before we leave this place.
Before we leave.
That has happened. We don't know what the next move will be as far as, their arrest and all those things concerned. But according to what I understand, I think today they are going to the police headquarters. Hopefully, they might file a lawsuit against the government for their arrest and detention. That is likely going to happen. And then I don't think things are ending here now because with the list being released and what we saw in that list, Jenaba, it has left so many people shocked, be it those in government, outside government. Because like I always tell people, things has getting to a level where it is no more about NPP or Barrow or what.
It's not about
exactly,
that.
yeah. So people need to understand that as well. This is more about national assets.
Yeah.
Yes, people will say, okay, these are Jammeh's assets, but originally these are national assets.
Yeah, some of them
exactly.
government
Exactly. And then when you look at, Ninko Jaye and all those things, I don't know, maybe you could tell me, have we ever come across any advertisement that they're going to that it's open for bidding? Well, these are some of the questions that people are asking. And when you look at the price at which some of these, assets were sold, you begin to wonder what was going on. It's more like people just, you don't say the Alali family, or you don't miras Alali family. Understand? So I think from this, I hope the list, because nobody get one, this is not the whole list. And then some people are even doubting whether even those names on the list are the real buyers. Maybe these are just ghost names who were acting on behalf of other people.
We're not sure.
Exactly, yeah. So all these are perceptions and allegations exactly
that
people have.
Of
exactly.
An individual called
something
Jalo.
Jalo mom.
The Jalo.
Jalo jenda de. Something Jalo jenda de.
So that's why it gets to a point again about where you will see even Johannesa, they hardly comment on some of these things publicly.
Wow.
They were coming out to express their frustration. Because I'm not to gain common sense will tell you this is not right.
Wow.
This is not right. So it is, like I said, it is no more about
politics.
Exactly.
I'll say this again. It's important that the list is produced already. Why man at some point, in fact, the bias, issue, I didn't see it as an issue. Okay, you're going to jai. Man ma ñëw ma jënda understand dafa depend si price bu ma ko jëndee tam
because loolu moo tax because xam nga bu doon like everything was transparent man maa ngi ñëw jëndal xam ne it's open, it's in the open, it's transparent. Man su ma ko jëndee man du ma worry sax for someone to release my name and said Alieu moo jëndoon lii wala Jenab moo jëndoon lii because Jenab xam ne this was in the open. Understand? It was very transparent. Bu ma ko doon jëndal nëbbu ma dara xewut. It was in the open, I bought it. Understand? But also we also need to understand Jenaba man suma ñëwé tay man la okay Alieu ma okay Jenaba ma ngi la jaay iPhone bi ni ma ngi la ko jaay 500. Common sense will tell you but
Lee jarul lool.
Lee come on, how could you tell me iPhone $500?
Wow, when the iPhone should be costing
exactly.
90,000.
So that alone should choose no, I think I should hold on because I don't understand. Man suma ñëw man la ma ngi la jaay iPhone bi 500. War nga xam ne no. Something is not clear about this. Because Alieu la moo tax mu maa jaay iPhone $500 fan la ko jëlee loolu yëpp xew na but like you said buyers ñoom dañ jënd nañ understand but then now they are asking for more that they should produce the whole list and also even the real buyers and all those things but I believe loolu yëpp it dafa yema pour gars yi xam ko
I've listened to Rodabo interview Turo mu ne when they approached him daf leen laaj mbaadu plane Yaya Jammeh mbaadu bagage Yaya Jammeh and the lady that called kooku mu ne no bu Jammeh Janneh commission ñoo ko jaay But man, I did not see any place boo xam ne ñun suñ current government bi ñu ne ñu ngi amee ay plane yoo xam ne ñu ngi ko jaay so man loolu daf ma xaw a confuse because obviously suñ laa jaay ay plane yu jàmmee lañ laa jaay.
waaw waaye dañ ko ne Jaane commission ñoo amee léegi seen loxo la nekka.
waaw
Jaane commission ñoo ko nekka di jaay so moom tam mu go ahead mu jënd ko because at that time dañ ko freeze si loxo Yaya Jammeh moom matu ko dem na exact anything under commission bi la nekkoon because freeze nañ bagage yi dañ ko freeze woon yëpp according to a law order ñu freeze ko.
Man, I was just wondering, okay, fine, $500,000 it's not much money waaye xaalis bu bëri la tam soo ko seetee understand nga before you put that money in this kind of business foog naa ne dafa important pour nga def sa findings nga gën a xam digga whether this is genuine
waaye moom mënuñoo jooj because moom according to lu mu wax mooy Aliou moom ak benn South African ñoo doon def bidding
bi waaw
te mu ne bidding bi buñ ko defee moom dafa am $500,000 kooku am $200,000 ñu jaay ko moom te ñu ne buñ ko jaay yuusu ko sax mu ngi noonu park si airport bi
waaw
so moom xëy na dinañu mën a gën a leeral fan la gisee bidding bi
waaw
parce que mu ne open bidding la woon
open bidding te soo ko xoolee tam ok man I don't know like we said some of these flights some of these planes man xam naa ne until Jammeh was leaving some of them were in good shape some of them they were functioning normal I remember even time impasse bi sax Zainab had traveled to the US using one of those flights that was the time bi ñu doon wax ne Zainab sax daw na ak xaleem dem nañ America it was during that period te bi mu doon dem flight she traveled with one of those flights okay that aside the price of $500,000 loolu yëpp xew na these are things that like you explained Toura moom explain okay it was open bidding exactly moom ak South Africa ñoo ko doon bid and all those things well and good understand but the fact of the matter is that the list that have been produced so xoolee amount bi ñu jaayee most of these bagages yi
dafa tuuti
understand dafa tuuti and to be honest with you Jenaba like we said this is about the country understand nga it's not about politics comme no ko waxee rek nekku di fi politics nekku di fi NPP UDP whatsoever it's about alal réew mi loo xam ne ñu bari dañ fil ne nu mu fa war na demee wut noonu
ba pare fuñ label as scrap bi nañ génn ñu wax ñu lan la miin
exactly
scrap bi mooy moto bi daw ndam ngee daw ndax la ko jot all of these things foog ñu génn daal ñu leeral
because masa that's why when it happens exactly moo tax man ba mu xewee sax dem naa ba ma ne suma benn yi ne ma ne ko de est-ce que foog ngeen sax Barrow sax amoon na accès si liste bii nii.
ndax yëg na ko sax ndax président Barrow yëg na ne lii am na Gambia.
dafa am benn message bu jógee si mayor of KMC.
waaw moom tam mu ngi deny some of the
when I have spoken to the administrators who were in charge at the time and there is no information regarding the purchase of the said tractors on the list circulating via social media. I remember requesting from the state for support on tractors prior to the Mbalit project in 2018 in order to help the council with waste management. However, there is no evidence record of or collection that the said tractors were delivered or purchased.
Waa léegi lu ma bëgg a xam mooy jaay bi kañ la xew ban iya baala leen ma.
doo mën a sax kañ la sax.
2017.
No.
2018.
The commission was set up in 2017.
So bu mu jeexee. kon 2018 la jaay bi am.
I think even when the commission was going on.
jaay baa ngee am.
Oh. Understand? Because I know Alhaji Momad Kuran bu mu fa nekkee as secretary of the commission, I think am na jot nañoo jaay some bagages according to what he said. Understand? But I think while the commission was going, ñu ngi doon jaay yeneen bagages xam naa bañ pour mu yaaw and all those things. But just in addition to what Bande is saying, even the Brikama area council, the chairman Yankuba Dabo, one time génn na mu ne the revelation that BAC was allocated 8 tractors is news to me. And I've asked around, but no one seems to know anything about them. As far as I know, we have not inherited any Jammeh tractors at BAC from the previous council. So liya mu ngi xew understand nga Basse area council ñoom tam be receive only 1 tractor.
Basse benn lañu receive.
benn lañu receive.
Why?
So ana tractor si kon kana jël tractor si. Foog ñu hold accountable.
So that's why bi mu xewee ma ne gars yi ne am na ko ma ko sax ba mu ngi resa ma ne ko don't be surprised sax Barrow sax tey mu gis liste bi sax. mu toog mu ne gars yi non.
lii fan la jógee.
Because si man I okay it's true it's possible but considering how president dey busy I don't think the president might have that time to talk the whole list. Jenaba Sonko, generally. Ibrahim. Exactly. So man, I don't know. It's possible. Why Fogoman didn't have that time?
No, why man? Dama feel ne sa. Moom bu nekkee ne tegoon nañ ko. Ñu ne ko ne jaayee nañ comme moto boobu noonu 20,000. in his right sense.
Because
it's not possible.
Yeah. The fact that Motam is a businessman, understand nga, I'm not saying it's not ko dina hala am listen. But maybe I'm okay, is President Barrow, they believe, okay, come your responsibility, you are competent enough. Okay, well, you are competent enough to do it as he will expect you to do it. Understand nga? So Motam man, anyway, let's see
as citizens.
Let's see what will happen.
Lan ngeen nekk di séntu moving forward.
Moving forward for man
after scenario buñ gis ni.
Scenario being after the scenario, si man it's a good opportunity for Gambians.
Okay.
Dafa génne lu si Gambians loo xam ne gars xamuñ ko woon.
Wow.
Because xam nga bu njëkk bi Gambia lu xew rek it was just on social media.
Wow.
Param rek 2 days 3 days mu dee.
Wow.
But li nga gis gom ni Gambians dafa ne léegi ñu ngi understand doole biñ am. Ne doole bi is with us, is with the people. Understand? And then for now, the government is jàngee from this. That léegi nit ñi ñu ngi eew. That we cannot just continue doing things as normal. You feel no, okay, it's just Gambia and then go show 1 day, 2 days.
You know one thing about this.
Understand? And I don't foresee group be there like definitely define a continuous movement. Boy. Understand? That will be monitoring. That anything will make them not wrong. Like they will just come out and start asking for answers from authorities. And I think that's good for democracy.
Wow, it's part of democracy.
It's good for democracy.
Assembly.
Exactly. So for now, with all those things, legi policy tam ñoo wara bàyyi seen xel. Understand nga? Policy dañu wara bàyyi seen xel trop si the way they handle certain things. Gis nga am na yoo xam ne saa tey Jenaba mu naam am na ñu bari ñoo gis keroog Westfield. I can tell you ne bu doon laay joxoon nañ ñi permit pour gars yi protest. ñoo yëpp dañu fa doon nekka. Understand nga? So am na yaan bi
permit bi sax suñ ko joxe woon duñ doon aaga fii.
Exactly. Just man ak Mr. Mbodj ñu ngi doon waxtaan on Week in Review sax. That was the same thing we were discussing. If you're talking about security threat, dafa war a am threshold.
Wow.
Te Gambia bi kenn ñaanu yàlla ne su sécurité mu aga threshold boo xam ne our fine men and women in uniform mënuñ koo handle.
Wow.
Kenn ñaanu loolu yàlla fii.
Ba pare ñi ay civilians rek lañ amee wuñ arms or anything.
And then I like I said, these are people that for me I see them as people no matter what I see them as people who are responsible. Ne fooguma ne gars nañ dem di taal ay pono. di sànni ay xeer maas ñoom Kex yi ni ñoom aussi ñu Gambia. I don't think ñooñu xam nga dañ xalaat loolu sax. And soo xoolee diggante ñoom fu ñu nekkoon aaj bi ak ministry bi it's less than 500 meters. Bring your 5 men ñu escort lañ gars yi dem dañuy dem da hand over petition wax ni ñu
ku nekk dem sa yoon
jeex na.
Waaw they would have handled it professionally.
Waaw ñu joxoon permit bi daal duñ fi aaga.
te xewoon na tam ñoom maar ñang biñ génne di protest against the ferries joxuñu leen permit ñooñu dem toog ci aaj bi. foofu c'est public place ku nekk mën na faa dem toog. ñooñu toog fa de kenn daa pick up pirim param di xam nga rek doole bi.
waaw xam nga dafa
ane loolu soo ko dee def da nga attract unnecessary attention.
waaw xam nga
loo xam ne jarul ko.
global attention
ñooñu bi ñu fa toogee yow you could have just sent 3 men gars yi dem toog the whole guy understand nga. I don't think Mar Nyang of all people will do certain things comme ça di taal ay pono no come on. They just asking for answers.
jëloon permit bi daal ñu jox leen ko.
Exactly.
gars yi dem yóbbu seen pétition si jàmm ak salaam.
So but sometimes I'm not low there deaf because you believe you are in command or you believe
that
yaa ngi def
unnecessary
so
things.
ñeneen ñi nga foog ne ko yaa ngi ko def because yaa ngi bëgg a impress the commander in chief when we are just putting you more in trouble because yaa ngi jéem a tarnish the image of the government. So you think because you are in command or I'm trying to impress my commander in chief let me am na yu bari du force.
Sometimes am
na yu bari du force. Understand nga. Negotiation ndànka nit yi xel lañ am. These are your brothers and sisters. So man tey jéem a su génne pour protest nga ñëw as officer nga wax ak moom in a nice way. génn bu borom xel la dina reason. Understand. waaye soo ñëwee nga dangaa use force and all those things.
yow as a citizen nekk sa kër xool lan la li woon yow.
Man I think ne lii mu dafa test suñ démocratie. dafa test ne okay the power belongs to the people. At some point come our never again slogan léegi lay nekk di manifest you know understand nga mu ngi mel ni youth yëpp génn nañ wane nañ ok lii du mën a am understand nga ba pare at some point nekkut ne dañ ko bugg a def pour wane ne ok ñun dañ bugg a wane doole or something waaye won nañ ne ok ku fa toog ñun ñoo la fa teg so anything loo xam ne mu ngi xew in the future these are the kind of things moo la faa fekk understand nga so lii baax na in another way waaye tam I think the needful should be done pour ñu mun a avoid this kind of situation.
Yeah, and for now with all this thing happening now and questions being, like people are asking more questions than answers regarding the whole thing, I think now the government or the president or whoever is responsible should set up a committee that will look further.
They should review this.
Exactly, they should review all these things now and come out here because after the dal, I'm not here. Yeah.
All right, so let's proceed.
Why, Tamit, man, suma opinion, mention the Never Again, the Never Again campaign.
Yeah.
And I think the Never Again campaign, feel again a jack.
Yeah.
I'm gonna never again be more human right violations. You amon dañ ne du fi amati. Ñun ñepp ñu indi ñu together memorialization. Ñu xam ñan la Yaya Jammeh rey ñu ne rey du fi amaat. Président bu fi toog du reyaat. Suñ men and security men yi duñ reyaat. Ñun suñ boppa duñ ko gis. So ñun tamit as young people, masha Allah génn nañ protest nañ. Ñun young people, Gen Z ñoo lead the way for this gala. Man tamit never again dina mun a apply fii never again bi nu moo apply mooy ñu start with us gis nga mag yi toog def njuuj njaaj bi ay xale lañu woon te sàcca si xale yàlla moo doore ñun xale yi fi des ëllëg tey sax suñ leadership tey la commencé di jëmi ëllëg nañ make sure ñun tamit little organisation yi ñoo lead nañ ko lead te bu mu am njuuj njaaj parce que njuuj njaaj xaaral rek Aliou njuuj njaaj foofu la dee commencé du ne rek ne sàccakat yi ñooñu ay government officials rek lañ de ñii lead local organizations yi ñaata yoon lañ fi def ay investigation yu reveal lead kat yi civil society organizations ñuy def njuuj njaaj si biir so ñun as young people buñ ko nangu nañ make sure ne ñu déggu ñun because fii la moo commencé mag bu sàcca xale yaa la ko commencé so ñun nañ seetaat suñ boppa ñu make sure ne suñ time su jotee pour ñu jël dëkk bi ñu teg ko si corruption free, accountability, and transparency.
I quite agree with you, and that's why, man, I tell people, okay, if we are talking about a new Gambia, new Gambia, it's not just about changing the laws all those things. It's about changing the attitudes, our mindsets.
Wow.
Laws change direct. Dara du xew. You can have the best of laws, but why bu dee nit ñi seen mindset bi change, attitude bi change rek problème la.
Wow.
Problème la, and I think li nga la wax is very important, especially nga ñun ndaw yi. Understand? Now we have seen what is happening. Suñu bëggee affaire bi change.
Mu continuer. ñun la. Jeena ba Sonko na wéceeku bu mu def njuuj njaaj bu mu sàcca. Yow organisation yow tey xëy na am na organisation bu ndaw booy lii njuuj njaaj bu mu fa am. Aliou the same thing. Su jaree sax organisation si nga xam ne ñun ndaw yi pour ñu wane suñu dégguwaay pour ñuy génne suñu audit report si sax ñu xam ne ñun ndaw yi déggu nañ te pare nañ pour jël réew mi te si dégg lañ ko bëgg a teg.
and man li ma advice di gala group bi moo nekk ne anything loo xam ne def leen a distract from the main reason why
nañ si génn
anyone koo xam ne is joining the group just pour am si boss am si
na génn
waaw ñoom they have their cause nañ focus leen tax a jóg anything loo xam ne bëgg naa si raax rek
nañ daaxa borom because xamalu tax
because lu dee moo nekk ne dangaa set up dara
am ko si roof
exactly am na ñaan bi dina si jéem
a yaa ngi am motif
exactly so loolu yëpp na si jéem a
no we have there is a vision understand nga ñëpp duñ mun a ñëw ñëpp duñ fa mun a
ba pare right now dina am ñu faa bëgg a ñuuxu sax ñi nga xam ne bokkuñ fa woon
am na ñaan bi daa very manipulative dañuy ñëw duga ba pare soo moo de seen vision bi ngeen am yëpp gars yi yaaxa ko and then there are certain people
commencé na sax
there are certain people suñ ci xasee duga rek people will start asking questions
already questions are being asked parce que am na scénario bu fi xew
so foog gars yi jéem a bàyyi seen
so let's move on
ba pare ñu continuer based on that
gis nañ tam on the paper Yankuba Dabo you know, Momak, this Bob Keita thing, they're talking about, okay, nekhut lolu la wax president bi waxut ko lolu ak yoyu. So I think those are things tam lo xamne certain conversations dafa am time am ak foko waxe.
Wow. Situation bi xara ñu explain mu leer because xëy na kuy seetaan du xam.
Exactly.
Num happen mooy after protest bi Bob Keita dafa bokkoon si ñu doon protest mooy gala groupe bi. So bu loolu xawee dama lay di foundation kuy seetaan mu xam soo léegi pour ñu mun a xam lan la Balde di wax Balde lu moo explain mooy Bob Keita dafa bokkoon si gala groupe bi protest ba pare ñu téye ko bu ñu ko génnee mu dem Facebook binda ne moom dafa am alteration daal ak président ni dëkk bi mooy Adama Barrow via a téléphone call explain lu fa xew mun ngeen a dem Facebook gën a riit gën a xam ne kooku daf ko saaga wax nañ fa ba di wax ay waxi Ousmane Sonko te ñun ñëpp xam nañ si right now relationship bi mu ngi xaw a
between Gambia and Senegal
so wax na lu bari daal léegi di nga gis ne si la GRA seen commissioner general bi génn a reeral ne moom si kaadoom ne moom in fact téléphone bi moo ko amee woon Bob Keita dafa dem pour bugg a baalu Adama Barrow so moom moo ko call jox Bob Keita téléphone bi pour mu baalu ko waaye moom leeral na ne si biir wax boobu Adama Barrow président de dëkk bi waxu ko dara loo xam ne dafa méngoo ak saaga wala Ousmane Sonko wala leneen so foofu lañ toolu so xëy na distraction bu Aliou di wax sax lii la nekk di wax
well it's really a very confusing one because Bob fu mu ne moom mu ngi taxaw si staanam mu ne loolu happen na Gorom mu ne no loolu happenut so it's a bit confusing
man my point is okay whether xew na wala xewut we have seen two contradicting statements to this Bob wana lii moo xew ki nga xam ne CG ki nga xam ne moom moo facilité on the telephone conversation between Bob and president bi pour jéem a reconcile whatever differences might happen between them ñëw na wax na ne ok Bob lu mu binda amut all right but ci man I think the timing was very wrong in this case understand nga which we have seen even possible mi génn na di apologize ne xam na the timing was wrong waaye mu ngi insist he still stand by what he wrote
moom lu tax bu mu xewee at first génnut si media bi mu wax ko mu xaar
exactly so moo tax ñu bañ nga the timing is wrong and also so xoolee what is involved because dafa involve koo xam ne is the Prime Minister of Senegal
exactly
and then so xoolee ñaari réew la yoo xam ne we are intertwined dëkk yoo xam ne la foo naa inting loo xam ne dafa indi
no suñ ay nawle lañ
understand nga war ko desi understand nga but mu ne mu ngee binda book and ti man if I was him I would have just keep it ba suma release suma book bi ma binda ko si book bi
jox nañu spoiler ba pare
understand nga so si man I think I just hope guide nañ ko jéem a resolve si besa ba they can resolve it
waaw waaye based on the comment section
but
man bu ma duggee si comment section
bi personally I was even surprised because knowing CG I have
du
never
dee
seen
génn di
him
waxant
coming out the comment on Facebook or the jéem a react also to whatever is happening
léegi xam nga léegi lu nit ñi di wax léegi
accept na the timing is wrong
timing bi waaye léegi fii xam nga tam xam nga fii tam
comment section bi loolu lañ
booy lu
man bu ma
xam
duggee
nga tam duñ mën a jóg rek ñu ne ok CG moo right Bob right tut we cannot say that we cannot justify that because ñu nekkuñ woon foofu noonu we were not there
bande loola moo at the beginning ma ne la ne
waaw nekkuñ fa
lii xew na whether it is or not understand nga ñun what we know is that dëgg na ñaari sides whether there was a separate telephone conversation boo xam ne is different from that of the CG
waxut loolu
non dama la jox exemple rek understand nga so loolu yëpp xaw ma ko
but when he was talking waxut ne CG mu ngi fa woon
waaye xam nga CG génn na wax ne call bi through him la
waaw
waaye Bob génn tut mu wax ne call bi nekk through CG
understand nga so loolu laa wax so gis naa ne Bob génn si na di wax ne ok moom no li mu wax there is no fiction he stand by his words and all those things understand nga but si man let's just hope am nga is resolved because lii it's more like it's between Bob and the president, between Bob and Goram. Te dafa xala disin tuuti so ñu bari na si jéem a mandu ñu am ni si waxee daal because lii is more like Bob ak Goram loolu sun yoon nekku si loolu is that
why in this instance Goro Aliou li nga wax
no understand
at the national table it has nothing to do with Goro
well that's what I'm telling you for nga understand ok lii xew na kii génn na mu ne ok man maa facilité call bi lii amut understand ne Bob génn na fale war na nii understand all li nga si mën a wax rek moo nekk na yàlla na si jaama
okay so on another development we are seeing Madi moom tam dafa génn mu ne National Human Rights Commission boss bi na resign you know
ban Madi hanga Madi bari nañ
not our National Assembly member but Madi our journalist
Madi
suñ Madi Cissé waaw so like xam naa ne because of this
ban Madi Cissé I don't understand yaa ngi ne Madi because we have Madi Cissé National Assembly Madi Jobaate of
we have Madi our activist
waaw Madi Jobaate
moom moo nekk di wax ne let this man resign
kan noonu
the Human Rights Commission boss
waaw waaye boobu tamit
probably because of this incident bu happen over the past week
because GPU came out to frown at because this whole thing the Republic ñoo bind investigative report so GPU bind nañ statement but according to the NHRC and the Media Council ñoom they're even accusing GPU now of being too hasty pour produce you know, a press release without being in consultation with them pour lekte leen meeting bu ñu amoon ak Moustapha Darboe lan la woon, what was it based on?
Yeah, because I mean, like you said, according to the press release, they had a meeting with Mustafa and the media council to see how best they can sort of mediate the issue, and also they also agreed for Mustafa. They suggested for Mustafa to make a joint statement with Bah to indicate, you know, they are not indicting Bah in this case, stuff like that, which I understand Mustafa does not want to do because he believes doing that will going to, you know, discredit his work. So lolu mo nekkat here, and then the GPU believes, okay, maybe in the report there's nothing law is against the ethics of journalism as far as the reporting is concerned. So, and I don't think there was any formal complaint also from Bah. And then if it's the media council, why is the media council, for example, having the meeting at the National Human Rights Commission?
Okay.
And not at their office?
So do you plan
Understand?
to hold a press conference regarding Bob Keita and are expected to expel him from the gala?
Who's doing that?
Someone just sent a message.
Well, I'm not a member
well,
of
we are
Gala.
not sure of that. We are not members of Gala. Wow, we are journalists.
We are not members of Gala.
We are journalists.
Most of us, whatever we say or write on Facebook, it's just our opinions as not just journalists, but Gambians. Before journalism, we are Gambians. And I think as Gambians, as journalists, when things happen, we have our opinions. Understand? And whatever we say, it's not okay to say we belong to Gala. We just say things as we see it, and we say our opinions.
Sometimes we talk as Gambians.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know.
But I mean, as journalists as well, covering this, I'm glad you mentioned ethics.
Exactly.
Then try by all means.
Yeah.
You remember, in as much as Gambians, then we are sign up to be journalists, and then we do things ethically.
Because it's important. Because for example, man, if I write a comment on my Facebook page, when I'm doing a story on this protest, you wouldn't see that in the story. Because they're not going to be in a way that it's going to be balanced and fair. Okay. It's going to be objective. Wow. But when it comes to your Facebook page, what you see, that's your own personal opinion, what you think. But when you get to the job...
sometimes it can be conflicting.
Yeah.
Wow. So you buy some help generally, right? You haul, and then you see, Gambians.
The bigger picture.
The bigger picture. And we see how this eventually pans out. Negotiations are already on. And whatever the case, ñu gis Gambia rek te xamne ñun ñep Gambia mo ñu ñor.
Exactly.
Inshallah.
And I like that point. Ñun ñep Gambia mo ñu ñor. So bu ken talk ba nga gis Jenaba mu ngi binda dara nga feel okay Jenaba is anti-government or anti-Barrow. No. Jenaba is just talking as a concerned Gambian. And that is normal. Understand? Mun na am yow mi nga ne yaay liggéey fale sa mun na am Jenaba mi nga mu ngi fi sa in fact mo la gëna ene waji lu baax sax dan yow mi nga ne yang ko jégué. So bu len dé just Jenaba mu ngi binda dara nga feel oh Jenaba is anti-Barrow or Jenaba is anti-government. No. This is not about MPP or politics or whatever. This is about the country. This is about national assets that we all want to see. We get to the bottom of it to know exactly how things happen.
Thank you so much, Ali, for joining us on the program. It was good to have you here. Ñu waxtaan, have an honest waxtaan and all of that. Just catch up.
Well, after them chops up.
Yo, man lan la ama yow be di la yóbbu chop
ñu chops up. Ya jóge NBR.
Yo bay ma yow man Q City nga wa yóbbu sax.
Mane ko padiyami war nañu ñëw de.
Padiyam yeen may bay leen ma. Even night allowance amu fi. Even night allowance amu. Da ngeen ma dugal.
5,000 a night.
Si bi jógee rek xoolal bale bul ma si bi jógee rek tayen ko chop chop dama rek tay ko
loolu ngeen fokk
we are going
loolu la fokk moom parce boobu la am te loolu du am
xam naa konaam bi wala xam naa konaam bi
but thank you so much for joining us on the program, Aliou. It's good to have you here, and go get your tea and continue your activities. Tenga regle nak.
Yes, so thank you, Ali.
Yeah, so we'll just go for a short break, and when we come back, we have a lineup of things. And one of the most prominent, the WHO will be embarking on a nationwide bed net distribution to prevent malaria. We all know the rainy season is coming up next, and during this time, malaria is very, very, prevalent in different regions in the country. So we'll just go for a short break, and when we come back, the show continues.
Oryx Gas, the energy that brings us together. Powered by Africa, Oris Energies.
QCell mooy suñu boss. QCell mooy suñu boss. QCell mooy suñu boss. Soro. Go, ebe dawa full network suta tili QCell. Ni lafta diamla wati jamala mune diata QCell. Most reliable network jumala keta wati QCell. Wo quality man nyon soto jam ona manke QCell. Hani be wuloni farole kono walante be bako na jala fayola network ko se taria QCell suñu boss. Nyo finjeka indi 3G ñu delu taxi 4G plus and now we bring you 5G. 5G. First and only 5G provider. Suñu boss. Itella follow adi doron nesa keno. Suñu boss. Gambia bela nyon tawo fele QCell. Suñu boss. Ko fasunta buka busi QCell. Suñu boss. Itella multi milka kukutol nati Gambia QCell meta lori la kiliano yele imanyina amanda wala itella ka quality dila dadi ma itelle silo wala wodol mume be keno ma QCell suñu boss QCell suñu boss QCell suñu boss QCell suñu boss connection be bambandi QCell suñu boss QCell most innovative QCell suñu boss.
Kiwmoni arti webi nafitora gol no yawi te non kadi no moƴƴi Kiwmoni a wawa wadde piiji ɗin fow kala ko wonɗa wattu kala a wawa hendade mbuuɗi maɗin e o Kiwmoni app kesong a wawa nattinde mbuuɗi ma ɗum yaltina soda crédit soda kiw paɓa soda ko falaɗa te non kadi wawa hen yoɓude himɓe e ko heewi iɗa wawi kadi nuldude Kiwmoni yoɓa bilji maɗin te non kadi hendoɗa mbuuɗi ko yaasi nulda himɓe kadi mbuuɗi fi nafitoragol ɗum no weeɓi yahu ka play store ma ɗum ka app store fi wawa fuɗɗade fi heɓugol hen ko laaɓi noddu Kiwmoni customer care e 133 Kiwmoni suñu kalpe minen udditi lawol ngol si woɓɓe jokki.
From that short break, if you're just tuning in, you're watching QTV this morning. So as part of the WHO efforts to combat malaria in the Gambia, they will be embarking on a nationwide mosquito bed net distribution, and Dr. Bachaita, who is the country rep of WHO, is here with us to take us through how they will be ensuring that bed nets are distributed across the country to prevent malaria. Welcome to the program. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you.
Yeah, so before we get into the bed net distribution, which will be taking place worldwide, what other initiatives has the WHO been embarking on when it comes to the prevention of malaria, ensuring that malaria is eradicated in the Gambia?
So one of the main things we do as WHO is to provide technical support. So through our technical support, we've ensured working together with government, of course, because it's government that does this. We're just partners who come to work alongside, is that we have a very strong malaria strategic plan for this country.
Yeah.
I have read through it because I wasn't here when it was done.
Yeah.
It's really a strong one that puts in place all the key recommended interventions that Gambia needs to put in place in order to prevent and control malaria. So we contribute a lot to that. We also help support the country when it comes to resource mobilization. We are not a funding agency, but when we work together with our colleagues in government, then we're able to work on proposals and mobilize resources from the Global Fund and other partners. For example, the campaign we are about to embark on is funded by the Global Fund, and that is as a result of the government working together with partners, including WHO, to be able to raise this money. So providing sound technical advice, working alongside government is our main role.
All right,
So,
interesting. So when are we starting this distribution?
And also, just to add on to that, what areas are you targeting when it comes to the distribution? Is it going to be door to door? Is it going to be just, community
Or a
banter
community-based thing,
bars, or at the level of the hospitals for further distribution? How are you going to do this?
That's a very good and important question. Now, let me just back up a little bit.
Yeah.
So when you are going to do a mass campaign, LLI, we call them long-lasting insecticide net distribution or mosquito net distribution, you work with the communities to map your target populations. And then working together with community leaders, you register all the households that are going to benefit from the net campaign. Now, after the registration, these households are provided with vouchers, which they will take to the place where they will receive the net.
Yes.
Community mobilizers have gone out to the homes and told people where you will receive your net. Some it could be at a school, others, I understand you call it Bantaba. Is there such a
Yes,
word?
Bantaba, yes.
Words,
Perfect,
Bantaba.
you're doing well.
And then for some, it could also be at a health facility. So
Yes.
your community leader will tell you where your nets are located.
So which areas or communities are prioritized for this distribution?
So as we all know that although the burden of malaria has dropped in the Gambia,
Significantly
we are
in the Gambia.
still all at risk
Yeah.
of malaria. So it's a nationwide campaign.
Yeah.
So they are going to distribute about 1.56 million treated nets. So the way it works is that after a lot of research, you give one net for 2 people. So given that the Gambia's population is about 2.5
Yeah.
million people, there are 1.56
Should be able
nets,
to
meaning
serve.
that there are enough for everybody
Nice.
in this country. So make sure you register, get that voucher, and you'll be informed where to pick your net.
So we want to know what types of nets are we giving out? I mean, we have different types of mosquito nets, the 4-corner mosquito net and the one that you hang. So what type of nets are these?
Well, what I have not gone into the specifics of
Yeah.
the design and so on, but this is what I know, that for every community, we find out what are the best nets. There are
That-
some where you give the 4 corners, there are some which need the conical
Yeah.
nets. So that has been
Well, the
factored into-
reason why I ask, because I mean we live in these communities, and sometimes we hear feedbacks from these people. The previous distribution, we've seen they've distributed a lot of 4-corner side nets. So I think most of the time people prefer the one-side mosquito net. So I said this so that you can put it in your recommendations probably in the future.
Okay, I will talk to our resource, risk communication and community engagement people to look at that, because whether
Exactly.
you receive a conical net or you receive a 4-corner one, there are ways you can use very adaptable local technology to be able
actually
to hang each one
hang
of
it,
those. But
yeah.
I'll have to find out a little more and give more on that.
Yeah, I'm glad he talked about the fact that we're all at risk of malaria, because 3 weeks ago, remember when I sat here and said I got malaria? I've not gotten it for like years, and you know I got it probably because I went to a specific area where there were a lot of mosquitoes. So in as much as the statistics has gone down, we all have to endeavor to use all the preventive measures that we can use. For example, the use of bed nets. So make sure to register and get
But she
access
said
to
she
it.
doesn't use bed net all the time.
I'm scared of bed
She
nets.
said she's scared of sleeping under a bed net.
Yeah, because
And why is that?
I mean, I
okay,
don't
I
understand.
don't know. Maybe I just grew up and did not ever sleep under a bed net, and
Probably.
because of that, I never can sleep under a bed net. But I want to improve.
I can't sleep without a bed net.
That's
I don't
a good
know
thing.
for some
That's
reason.
a good thing.
You know.
Okay.
So are these nets sold or given for free?
It's
Well, somebody paid for the net, and then it is so that it can be distributed free
Yeah,
to the
it's
people of the Gambia. So
Yeah.
you're not going to pay anything. It is a free net that
Okay.
has already been paid for through the Global Fund. So go register and make sure you get that net.
yeah, and you're not. It's not. You're not supposed to sell it or anything.
Yes.
It's absolutely for free. Courtesy of the Global Fund, which is a good
Working,
thing.
yeah.
So during this bed net distribution, are they going to also be like real life demonstrations in several bantabas to show people how to use it?
That is something that happens,
Okay,
because
automatically.
you don't assume that people know how to use a net. I mean, you could give it to somebody and they keep it under a pillow and they say, you gave me a net and I have it.
Yeah.
But people have to be shown. They are always, that is the role of our community mobilizers.
Okay.
That is the role of some of our community leaders. They are taken through how to use a net properly.
Okay.
Because having it and not using it properly may not give you all the protection you would otherwise have got.
Yeah.
So is this a replacement of the old nets that we are having? You know, it's like there was a distribution many years, ago. So is this a replacement, and how often do you do this distribution?
That's a really good question. The current nets that we have, research was done, and it was found that within a period of 3 years, the amount of insecticide on the net has reduced and is no longer protective. But also many nets have got holes and are no longer, so even when you have the insecticide, but the mosquitoes come in. So for most countries, the campaigns are done every 3 years, informed by this research. So they were given 3 years ago, that was 2022, and now we're in 2025, and we try to make sure that the timing is before the rains, because we know that that is when the transmission comes. So that is why the distribution is happening at the start.
This is a perfect timing because the rains are most likely expected next month.
Yeah.
And like you said, it's, you know, it becomes...
So who
worse.
monitors the distribution process?
So the distribution is done through, of course, the structures that are established. And what happens is that you have families that are registered. You register a family, and then the family gets vouchers. So one of the things that we do, the first monitoring thing, is that how many vouchers have been brought back to get for people to get a net. So that is one way we monitor. So the numbers. So you compare the vouchers that you've got and also the nets that have gone out. But later on, studies are done to determine, one, for example, when we have what we call the malaria indicator survey, it is something that shows us how many households we have, how many of those have nets, how many nets are in those homes, how many people, which people use the net the night before, what are the conditions of the net. So there are a lot of monitoring and evaluation approaches that make sure that we know what is happening to the nets.
So before you leave, I just have two questions. So one has to do with if the WHO supports fumigation exercises around some of these communities that are very prone to malaria ahead of the distribution of the bed nets. And also, you know, currently research is being done when it comes to coming up with a malaria vaccine. Can you give us an update around that at the level of the WHO?
Let me start with fumigation. We do not do fumigation as a method for controlling malaria.
Okay.
We don't use that. Okay, so don't expect that government is going to go around fumigating homes as a method for controlling
maybe certain
malaria.
Surroundings where there's breeding grounds and all of that.
No, we don't do that.
Okay.
There are other interventions that are done, but the fumigation is done now. Now, talking about the malaria vaccine, malaria vaccines we have 2 vaccines at the moment that have been found to be effective in reducing the burden of malaria, especially deaths. And 14 countries on the African continent have rolled out malaria vaccines. So in the Gambia, we are at the stage of discussions with the funders, with the funding agencies, but also looking at the technical feasibility of deploying the malaria vaccine given our lower burden and many other things. So with time, the people will sit together, the different technical agencies will sit together with government, of course, and come up with a way forward. We have to work with the malaria program, of course. You have to work with the national immunization program because the vaccine is going to be delivered through their system and so on. So there are many issues that you have to look at, but a lot of work is going on in the Gambia related to that.
To the vaccine. Okay, we're looking forward. Thank you so much for joining us on the program, and good luck on your nationwide distribution, and I should improve. I should start using a bed net.
Yes.
Ibrahima just exposed me live on television. Why did you do that?
Well, I have to. You have to start using one.
Yes, but I'll definitely work on that.
But as I go, well, let me thank government,
Yeah.
because we are just technical partners to support. This is a Government of Gambia campaign
Yeah.
where we're coming in to work alongside them. So thank government for working together with the various stakeholders to make sure that this campaign takes place. It is a campaign that is meant to make sure that we don't have unnecessary deaths anymore coming from a simple mosquito bite that can be prevented.
Exactly. Yeah. So always remember the prevention aspect. And I
Exactly.
like the whole little mosquito. It's too little to cause somebody to die.
It's little but very dangerous.
Very dangerous,
Exactly.
right? Thank you so much for joining us on the program, and make sure that at your communities you get your vouchers, get registered, and get your bed nets and get them hanging and start using it. So Ibrahima will now go for a short break, and when we come back, our next topic is also health related, and which I'm very excited about. We'll be right back.
Taking a break isn't about stopping, it's about recharging for the next stage. Welcome to our oasis.
Powered by Africa, Oris Energies.
Q-Money Delsina ak seen mobile app bu bees bii óor na gaaw na te it mun nga koo jëfandikoo pour def ci loo bëgga foo mun di ne waxtu bu ne mun ngaa jot sa xaalis ak Q-Money mobile app bu bees bii mun ngaa dugal xaalis génnee xaalis jënd si crédit jënd si Q Power jënd loo bëgga ak yu bëri mun nga ci yónnee Q-Money fay sa bill si jot xaalis bitim réew yónnee xaalis ci noo ko bëggee looy def yomba na downloadal app bi léegi ca Play Store bu dul loolu App Store pour nga door pour am si lu leer koolal Q-Money customer care si 133 Q-Money suñu kalpe ñoo xaali yoon wi ñeneen toppa
Oryx Service. Top teamwork for top performance.
Powered by Africa, Oris Energies.
Oryx, with you all the way.
Powered by Africa.
Q-Money arti webi nafitoragol no yawi te non kadi no moƴƴi Q-Money a wawa wadde piiji ɗin fof kala ko wonɗa wattu kala a wawa hendade mbuuɗi maɗin e o Q-Money app kesson a wawa nattinde mbuuɗi ma ɗum yaltina soda crédit soda Q Power soda ko falaɗa te non kadi wawa hen yoɓude himɓe e ko heewi ina wawi kadi nuldude Q-Money yoɓa bilji maɗin te non kadi hendoɗa mbuuɗi ko yaasi nulda himɓe kadi mbuuɗi fi nafitoragol ɗum no weeɓi yahu ka Play Store ma ɗum ka App Store fi wawa fuɗɗade fi heɓugol hen ko laaɓi noddu Q-Money customer care e 133 Q-Money suñu kalpe minen udditi lawol ngol si woɓɓe jokki Q-Money.
Welcome back from that program. Welcome back from that short break. If you're just tuning in, you're watching QTV this morning, and now we're joined by Dr. Binta Jallow, and Dr. Binta Jallow is a woman in STEM, and as part of the We STEM as well, we've seen her doing extremely well, educating young girls across the country when it comes to STEM education and the need for young girls to embrace it, and then when they do, they can, you know, be the change that they want to see. Mathematics, engineering, technology, and the list goes on. Thank you so much for joining us on the program, Dr. Binta Jallow. And, you know, just give us history. How did you start your journey as a woman in STEM?
Okay, thank you, Jenaba, and I'm glad to be here with you this morning. Actually, I started as a student, science student at the high school, then proceed to Gambia College, where also I studied science, went to teach a little while and came back to the university to have my degree in biological sciences. And certainly when I graduated, I got a scholarship to go and study in China. And I studied degree, MD in medical parasitology. So I came back and then currently in the Gambia College, lecturing biology courses. Yeah, in the science department. So,
yeah, so as a woman, you know, lecturing your students on the area of sciences, you know, what is their perspective of sciences? You know, there's this general notion, even when we were growing up, about mathematics, engineering, technology, especially for young women.
Yeah, but I think the notion is that science is difficult, generally. That's what young people always think. But I think what I'm saying now, things are changing gradually. At the college, we have girls doing public health, doing nursing, and we also have those doing science specialists who in turn go back to the schools to teach. And oftentimes, they're really striving well. In fact, we just concluded graduation ceremony of the Gambia College. We have a valedictorian as a STEM, as a public health officer, and she's a lady as well. She got the overall best graduating student. And I think the narratives are changing now. We just need more, let's say, education, more information, so that these girls will know that science is not difficult. It's just focus, hard work, and dedication. We're seeing now women also in engineering, in the tech world, women being data science, scientists and tech gurus. So the narratives are really changing.
So what teaching methods work best when involving, when teaching your students in STEM?
You know, STEM is wide. Actually, I focus on biology. Biology. However, in the biological sciences, you know, the most appropriate teaching methods, you might not have everything it entails, but we inculcate both theory and practical aspect as at the college level. You know, we introduce these girls or these students to basic microscopy. You know, let's say you're doing a course in anatomy, you would have to use the skeleton and other devices that will aid your teaching. This way, practical science is more of practical base.
But what are the challenges? I mean,
obviously there are some challenges because, you know, we are a developing country and we are faced with numerous challenges, and the college is not an exception. So most of the time, to have the let's say the adequate lab materials is always a problem. The space and you know, all the necessities you need to teach effectively. Yeah, because sometimes you might have microscopes that are just as old as grandparents, which might not be functional. But I think the college is improving, considering when I was there and now. Yeah, they're really improving.
So what motivated you to go back to the college to actually teach at the college level? Because most of the time when people get these degrees, you know, due to low levels of incentives, they would prefer going to another country or going into the private sector or doing something completely different. When you decided to go back to where everything started?
Actually, I would have preferred to be in a laboratory setup because I'm a laboratory scientist. I base my work in the lab. But, you know, when I came back from China, was supposed to be with the Ministry of Health, but, you know, one thing led to the other. However, I found myself in the Gambia College. However, but in the college, we have a research unit, and I'm very passionate about research because I have published like 6 papers and did some work on human myiasis. That is a parasitic infestation that affects humans, especially the sub-Saharan Africa. I think I am one of the authors that wrote extensively on that. So since that also college is a tertiary institution, now with the University of Education, and they have a research base. I'm currently a researcher at the research unit. And you know how institution cannot work without research. So I will focus more on the research aspect, because also being in the laboratory is important, but also facilitating research in high institutions is equally important. And I believe with the transformation going on, we'll have very standard laboratories where you can join the laboratory work with research.
Yeah.
So how do you promote innovation and critical thinking in your class?
Actually, you do it in numerous ways. For example, we at the college, we engage in teacher education, and you will want your students to be innovative. This is the way they teach, and we make sure we innovate teaching aids that are very, very practical to their lessons, and they will make these teaching aids, they will present on them, so that if they're in the classroom setup, even if you are disadvantaged, for example, you're teaching the skeletal system, you don't have a skeleton in Bolibana, for example. We can use cartoons, we can use Excels to mimic these structures that are not available, such that it will be innovative enough to teach the children, and they will get what you want them to get.
Yeah. So yeah, thank you so much for joining us on the program, and we hope that young girls will be inspired by the amazing work that you're doing, because we need people like you at the level of the Gambia College to give back.
Absolutely.
You know?
In fact, when
because
you were asking, when you asked her why didn't you go to maybe
somewhere else, private
higher
sector,
or something. But I think the Gambia College, they need someone like her
well,
too.
Yes.
I mean, at some point, ñëpp waru ñoo nekk
suñ demee fële du baax. Waaw, waaye tamit lu mu wax xaw na moo make sense, because her job is kind of lab related. Basically. Waaye tamit meruñ si de. Meruñ si luñ ko am fële tamit.
But let them nañ ko jox juusami rek.
Wow, mujjee at the end of the day.
I'm getting that.
Yeah, wow. So that's the most important thing. And now she's part of Wisdom, and through Wisdom Gambia, she's also inspiring young girls to take up, STEM related fields. He wanted to be a medical doctor.
Okay.
Bumpare High School.
Okay.
Dafa amon scholarship pour dem Venezuela. Mu ñëw toog fii lii. Man kii jaaxal na ma.
Education is related, basically.
Am nga kii jëkkëram suma friend la.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah, we are very close.
Waaw waaye waaruwuloo kii dafa waroon a dem Venezuela pour nekk docteur. Ni kon time bi nekk na qualified doctor
nii. Man seen time si laa bugut seen yëfi docteur yëfi science yooyu noonu.
Buguloo yooyu
ko bàyyil.
Nga bàyyi ko daw. Yow toog non.
Man ma téye si wax bi.
Nga téye si wax bi. Hey man xale bi jaaxal.
Thank you.
But thank you so much, Doctor, for joining us. Thank you so much. So, Ibrahima, that is all we have time for.
Exactly.
So, see you tomorrow, inshallah, with another interesting program. Bye.
Bye.